The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional business, legal, financial, or marketing advice. Building a digital footprint, including integrating third-party social media platforms into your United States-based business website, involves inherent risks, variables in consumer behavior, and strict compliance with data privacy regulations such as the California Consumer Privacy Act and the General Data Protection Regulation. The strategies, case studies, and historical trends discussed in this masterclass are illustrative of potential outcomes. We do not offer guaranteed results, nor do we suggest any get-rich-quick outcomes. Your business metrics, website traffic, and potential outcomes will vary based on your specific industry, execution, and market conditions. Always conduct your own due diligence and consult with certified professionals, web developers, or legal counsel before implementing major structural changes to your business infrastructure, marketing strategies, or data collection protocols. Right now, at this exact second, you are likely bleeding website traffic, and the culprit is sitting right at the top of your homepage. For years, web designers, marketing gurus, and so-called digital experts have told you that the ultimate goal of an online presence is interconnectedness. They told you to put those brightly colored Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X icons in your website header, your footer, and plastered across every single one of your blog posts. But I am here to tell you that this conventional wisdom is actively sabotaging your United States business. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of digital psychology, and it is costing you sales, leads, and long-term customer retention. Think about the mechanical reality of what you are actually doing when you follow that outdated advice. You spend thousands of dollars on pay-per-click advertising, comprehensive search engine optimization, and meticulously crafted content just to get a potential customer onto your domain. You have won the absolute hardest battle in the landscape of digital marketing, acquiring a targeted human eyeball. And then what do you do with that hard-won attention? You place a massive, highly optimized exit sign right in their immediate line of sight. When a user clicks that Instagram icon on your homepage, they are instantly transported away from your controlled, optimized sales environment and drop directly into a multi-billion-dollar distraction machine. That machine is engineered by some of the brightest behavioral psychologists on earth to keep them scrolling indefinitely. They are looking at your direct competitors' advertisements, viral entertainment, and political debates within 3 seconds of leaving your carefully designed site. The statistical probability of that user navigating back to your shopping cart or your lead generation form drops to near absolute zero. Let me share a specific case study that perfectly illustrates this silent business killer. Consider a mid-sized e-commerce apparel brand based in Austin, Texas. In recent years, they noticed a massive discrepancy between their surging website traffic and their completely stagnant sales revenue. They were getting 50,000 unique visitors a month, but their conversion rate was a dismal 0.5%. They hired expensive analysts, tweaked their pricing models, and completely overhauled their checkout process, but nothing moved the needle. Finally, a forensic user experience audit revealed a terrifying behavioral pattern. 32% of their mobile traffic was clicking the social media feed embedded on their product pages, attempting to see how the clothes looked on real people. But because the integration was fundamentally flawed, those clicks were redirecting users straight out of the mobile browser and into the native Instagram application. The brand had essentially built a trapdoor right next to their cash register. This is not an isolated incident. Historical trends across digital commerce show that poorly integrated social media elements act as digital quicksand, trapping potential buyers in a loop of endless consumption that has nothing to do with your product. Let us look at another example, this time in the business-to-business sector. A software-as-a-service company based in Chicago, Illinois, specializing in logistics management, was struggling to generate qualified enterprise leads. Their website was pristine, filled with authoritative white papers and compelling corporate case studies. To build further authority, they integrated a live, scrolling feed of their executives' LinkedIn posts right on the homepage. The logic seemed sound. Show potential clients that their leadership team consists of active industry thought leaders. However, historical analytics revealed a devastating reality. When high-value prospects, procurement officers, and chief operating officers visited the site, they would read a snippet of a fascinating LinkedIn post, click to read more, and instantly be ripped out of the software company's carefully designed sales funnel. They were dropped into the LinkedIn feed, where the algorithm immediately served them sponsored content from the software company's direct competitors. The company was literally paying thousands of dollars in targeted search advertising to attract high-ticket leads, only to hand-deliver those exact leads to their rivals via a poorly placed social media widget. They were optimizing for vanity metrics instead of optimizing for the actual user journey. The psychology behind this is deeply rooted in the dopamine-driven feedback loops that social networks utilize. Your business website is an environment of transaction, education, and focused information. Social media is an environment of unpredictable reward and chaotic stimulation. When you mix the two without a precise, protective strategy, the unpredictable reward will always win the user's attention. But what if there was a way to reverse this destructive cycle? What if you could harness the social proof, the dynamic user-generated content, and the community validation of social media without ever letting the customer leave your domain? There is a highly specific, fundamentally different architectural approach to social media integration that the top tier of digital retailers and service providers are using right now. It is a method that transforms social media from a blasting exit sign into a powerful digital glue, binding the customer to your website and accelerating their journey toward a purchase. I call it the closed-loop integration framework, and by the end of this comprehensive masterclass, you will understand exactly how it functions, why it is so highly guarded by top agencies, and how the absence of it is the exact reason your current bounce rate is stubbornly high. In this deep dive, we are going to completely dismantle everything you thought you knew about blending social media with your business website. The massive problem we are solving today is the fragmented, leaky digital ecosystem that plagues the vast majority of small to medium-sized United States businesses. You are currently treating your website and your social media channels as two entirely separate entities that occasionally and clumsily nod to one another. This deep disconnect creates massive friction for your consumer, dilutes your brand messaging, and ultimately destroys your conversion rates. Today, we are going to reconstruct that relationship from the absolute ground up. You will learn how to strategically embed dynamic social proof that keeps visitors scrolling on your actual product pages rather than wandering off to a social platform. We will explore the technical nuances of application programming interfaces, analyzing historical data on how seamless integration directly impacts time-on-page metrics and consumer trust. We will dissect the exact placement strategies for social login features, ensuring you capture vital first-party data without triggering privacy alarm bells or violating consumer trust in an era of heightened digital security. You will see case studies of diverse businesses that transformed their static, brochure-style websites into thriving, community-driven hubs by simply changing how their social feeds interact with their content management systems. Furthermore, we will address the specific, nuanced challenges faced by various business models operating within the highly competitive United States market. Whether you are a local brick-and-mortar retailer relying on local search engine optimization, a nationwide e-commerce operation handling thousands of daily transactions, or a high-ticket consulting firm trying to establish undisputed authority, the integration mechanisms differ vastly. You will discover how to leverage user-generated content directly at the point of sale, turning your existing satisfied customers into your most potent on-site sales force. We will examine the critical importance of mobile optimization in this process, looking at historical trends that unequivocally show how clumsy social plugins disproportionately damage mobile conversion rates compared to desktop. By understanding the intricate balance between providing powerful social validation and maintaining a captive audience, you will be equipped to dramatically lower your overall customer acquisition costs. When visitors stay longer and interact more deeply with your on-site content, your organic search rankings naturally improve, your brand recall skyrockets, and your reliance on expensive retargeting campaigns diminishes. This is not about getting more followers or going viral for the sake of ego. This is about structural web architecture. This is a masterclass in retaining absolute control over the digital narrative you have paid so dearly to construct, and funneling the chaotic energy of the social internet directly into your business's bottom line. To truly master this, we have to look at the state of digital commerce right now in 2026. The average United States consumer is hyper-aware of marketing tactics and deeply skeptical of traditional advertising copy. If you claim your product is the best, they immediately assume you are biased. They require third-party validation, and they usually seek that validation on massive external networks. But as we established, sending them to those platforms is digital suicide. This brings us to the first pillar of the closed-loop integration framework, which involves native user-generated content injection. Imagine if you owned a physical coffee shop in Seattle, Washington, and every time a customer asked if your espresso was good, you handed them a bus ticket to a library across town to read a review, hoping they would eventually ride the bus back to buy the coffee. It sounds completely absurd in the physical world, Yet business owners do this every single day online. They force users to navigate away from the point of sale to find proof of quality. The modern solution is to bring the library directly into the coffee shop. In the digital realm, this means utilizing advanced application programming interfaces to pull live, curated social media posts directly into your product pages, rendering them as native website elements rather than clickable outbound links. Let us look at a specific case study to understand the exact mechanics of this. Consider Michael, who runs a specialty woodworking and hardware supply company based in Columbus, Ohio. For years, Michael relied on standard text-based reviews at the bottom of his product pages. In the fast-paced visual economy of 2026, text reviews simply do not carry the weight they used to. Buyers want to see the tools in action before pulling out their credit cards. Initially, Michael added a generic social media feed to his global website footer, but historical analytics showed a massive spike in mobile bounce rates with zero corresponding increase in conversions. The users were leaving to look at the woodworking projects and getting lost in the algorithm of the social platform. The strategic pivot came when Michael implemented a dynamic user-generated content aggregator. Instead of a general feed, the system was configured to use highly specific hashtag tracking and product tagging rules. Here is the step-by-step breakdown of how he executed this without risking his traffic. First, his software constantly scanned networks for a specific proprietary hashtag linked to a particular brand of Japanese pull saw he sold. When a customer in Oregon posted a high-definition video building a cabinet using that exact saw, Michael's software automatically sent a pre-approved digital rights request to the creator. Once the creator replied with a confirmation keyword, the software downloaded the raw video asset and the associated caption text. Next, and this is the critical step, the software utilized a secure webhook to push that asset directly into Michael's content management system, specifically mapping it to the stock-keeping unit of that exact pull saw. When a new visitor landed on the product page, they did not see a widget linking out to a social network. They saw a native, beautifully formatted video player embedded directly beneath the Add to Cart button. The viewer could watch the genuine social proof from a real American woodworker, see the tool perform flawlessly, and then immediately initiate the checkout process. By removing the exit route and keeping the social proof strictly native, Michael saw historical trends in his business shift dramatically, tracking a potential outcome of increased session duration by over 180% and a massive reduction in cart abandonment. This strategy requires a fundamental shift in how you view web development. We are moving away from the era of clumsy third-party plugins that slow down your site and act as massive security vulnerabilities. Instead, we are looking at headless content management systems where the front-end presentation is entirely decoupled from the back-end data. This allows your developers to call social media data via secure tokens and render that data directly within your own cascading style sheets. The user sees a modern grid of real customers using your products, but to their browser, it just looks like native website content. They cannot click a username and accidentally end up on a competitor's profile. They cannot click a hashtag and get swept into a trending political debate. They are locked securely within your carefully designed digital environment, consuming the exact social proof they need to make an informed purchasing decision. Let us examine another powerful application of this framework through the lens of a service-based business. Imagine Sarah, a founder of a high-end corporate consulting firm in Atlanta, Georgia. For service providers in 2026, establishing undisputed authority is the single most critical factor in enterprise lead generation. Sarah was incredibly active on professional networking platforms, posting deep, analytical breakdowns of corporate tax structures and organizational efficiency. Her posts garnered thousands of views, but her website form submissions remained completely stagnant. Her initial website integration consisted of a standard social sharing widget, asking users to share her site on their personal profiles. This is a classic architectural mistake. It asks the user to do the marketing work before the value has been firmly established in their mind. Sarah completely reversed her digital architecture. She worked with her development team to pull her highest performing, most heavily commented articles directly into her website's resource center, using a secure, read-only application programming interface. However, she implemented a strict data stripping protocol. Instead of importing the active hyperlinks and the clickable comments section where a user could easily wander off, her system only imported the raw text and the metric data. It displayed the thousands of likes and the plain text comments from industry leaders engaging with the content. She then placed her own proprietary lead capture form directly beneath this highly validated intellectual property. When a potential chief operating officer visited her site, they saw the profound insights she provided, completely validated by massive social metrics pulled securely from external networks, but their only actionable next step was to fill out Sarah's private consultation form. The psychological leverage at play here relies heavily on mirror neurons and the concept of herd behavior. When a consumer arrives on your landing page and sees a dynamic, rapidly updating environment of other real Americans purchasing, using, and praising your product, their perceived risk of the transaction plummets. They are no longer taking a lonely leap of faith. They are simply joining a thriving, satisfied community. You are essentially building a bespoke, miniature social network strictly dedicated to the celebration of your brand, hosted entirely on your own digital real estate. But harnessing all of this heavy, rich media from multiple different platforms introduces a massive, potentially fatal structural problem to your business website. Every single time you pull data from an external server, you are adding significant weight to your page load time. In the fiercely competitive landscape of digital commerce, if your mobile site takes longer than 2.5 seconds to render because it is struggling to load a massive grid of user-generated videos, the customer will simply hit the back button and buy from your competitor. Search engines will heavily penalize your rankings, your advertising costs will skyrocket due to poor landing page experience scores, and your beautifully integrated social strategy will completely collapse under its own technical weight. How do you balance the heavy demands of rich social proof with the absolute necessity of lightning-fast page speed? The answer lies in a highly specialized, often misunderstood technical process called asynchronous loading and dynamic asset delivery. And if you do not understand how your current web developer is handling this, your entire digital storefront is sitting on a ticking time bomb. The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional business, legal, financial, or marketing advice. Building a digital footprint, including integrating third-party social media platforms into your United States-based business website, involves inherent risks, variables in consumer behavior, and strict compliance with data privacy regulations such as the California Consumer Privacy Act and the General Data Protection Regulation. The strategies, case studies, and historical trends discussed in this masterclass are illustrative of potential outcomes. We do not offer guaranteed results, nor do we suggest any get-rich-quick outcomes. Your business metrics, website traffic, and potential outcomes will vary based on your specific industry, execution, and market conditions. Always conduct your own due diligence and consult with certified professionals, web developers, or legal counsel before implementing major structural changes to your business infrastructure, marketing strategies, or data collection protocols. To understand the magnitude of this threat, we have to look under the hood of how web browsers actually read and display your website in the year 2026. When a potential customer taps a link to your online store on their smartphone, their mobile browser requests a massive document of code from your server. Traditionally, browsers read this code synchronously, which means they read it linearly from the absolute top to the absolute bottom. Imagine if you were building a house, and the construction crew refused to pour the foundation or frame the walls until the interior decorator finished perfectly arranging the furniture in the master bedroom. The entire project would grind to a complete halt. This is exactly what happens when you embed rich social media content, like high-definition user-generated videos or heavy image grids, using synchronous loading. The browser hits the line of code asking for the social media widget, and it completely freezes the rendering of your entire website until it successfully contacts the external social media server, downloads all the heavy media files, and processes the tracking scripts. During this exact moment, your customer is staring at a blank white screen. Historical trends and data from major search engine algorithms over the past several years have made it abundantly clear that page speed is no longer just a luxury. It is a foundational pillar of digital survival. Search engines measure specific metrics known as core web vitals, specifically focusing on the largest contentful paint, which is the time it takes for the main content of your page to become visible. If your synchronous social media integration pushes that loading time past 2.5 seconds, search engines will severely penalize your organic ranking, effectively hiding your business from potential local and national customers. Furthermore, consumer behavioral data in 2026 indicates that for every additional second of load time, your mobile conversion rate drops exponentially. You are literally draining your own marketing budget because your website is too busy talking to a social media platform to talk to your actual customer. Let us look at a stark case study of how this destroys businesses. David owned a highly successful, specialized functional fitness studio in Denver, Colorado. To showcase the community aspect of his gym, he hired a web developer to embed a live feed of 50 high-definition member workout videos directly onto his homepage. He wanted prospective members to see the energy of the gym the second they landed on the site. However, the developer used standard synchronous embedding. The potential outcome of this structural flaw was catastrophic. When a prospective client clicked David's highly optimized local search ad while riding the light rail downtown, their phone struggled to download gigabytes of video data from the social network before it even loaded the schedule, the pricing, or the button to book a free trial class. The site took an agonizing 8 seconds to load. Users simply abandoned the page, assuming the website was broken. David was paying $40 per click for high-intent local leads, only to lose them to a technical bottleneck caused by his own social proof. The solution to this incredibly common architectural disaster is asynchronous loading combined with dynamic asset delivery and a technique called lazy loading. This is the exact methodology utilized by top-tier enterprise brands, and it is entirely accessible to your business right now. Asynchronous loading tells the browser to essentially multitask. Returning to the house-building analogy, the construction crew continues to pour the foundation, frame the walls, and put on the roof, while simultaneously sending a separate team to retrieve the furniture. In digital terms, your web server tells the browser to immediately load the critical elements of your website, such as the text, the branding, the navigation menu, and the crucial checkout buttons. While the user is already reading your compelling copy and engaging with your brand, the heavy social media assets are quietly being fetched in the background. But we can optimize this even further with lazy loading. Imagine if you are standing in a massive warehouse superstore, and the store management decides to turn on every single light bulb, television, and display unit in the entire building, just because you walked through the front door. It is a massive waste of resources. Lazy loading applies this logic to your website architecture. When a user lands on the top of your homepage, there is absolutely no logical reason to force their mobile device to download the social media proof grid located all the way at the bottom of the page near the footer. A properly configured lazy loading script calculates exactly where the user is looking on their screen, known as the viewport. The heavy social media assets are completely ignored by the browser until the user actively scrolls down and approaches that specific section of the website. Only then, milliseconds before the user's eyes reach the social proof, does the system dynamically request and display the media. Consider the case study of Jessica, who runs a rapidly growing sustainable skincare brand headquartered in Miami, Florida. Jessica heavily relied on user-generated content showing real Americans demonstrating her facial serums. Instead of relying on clumsy third-party plugins, she worked with a specialized digital architect to implement a headless commerce setup with strict asynchronous and lazy loading protocols. Her development team went a step further by implementing application programming interface caching on a secure edge network. Instead of her website constantly asking the social media platform for the latest videos every single time a new user visited, her own private server fetched the social media data once every hour, compressed the heavy video files into next-generation, lightweight formats, and stored them on ultra-fast servers distributed across the United States. When a customer from rural Montana on a weak cellular connection visited Jessica's site, the text and buy buttons loaded in less than half a second. As the customer scrolled down to read the reviews, the highly compressed, cached user-generated videos popped into view instantly, without ever needing to communicate with the native social media platform. The potential outcomes of this architectural overhaul were staggering. By completely decoupling the heavy social media assets from the initial page load, Jessica saw her mobile bounce rate plummet by over 40%. Her cost per acquisition dropped significantly because the search engines rewarded her lightning-fast site with higher quality scores, making her advertising dollars stretch exponentially further. She successfully retained the massive persuasive power of social proof without sacrificing a single millisecond of user experience. You must treat your website's bandwidth like prime commercial real estate. Every single kilobyte of data you force your customer to download must justify its existence by directly contributing to a conversion. By demanding asynchronous delivery and intelligent caching from your web development team, you completely insulate your business from the bloat and slow server response times of external social networks. You create an airtight, frictionless environment where the customer can transition from curiosity to validation to purchase without a single moment of technical hesitation. However, achieving this perfect harmony of speed and social validation introduces an entirely new, deeply hidden vulnerability that can completely shatter your website overnight. When you build these advanced integrations, you are completely reliant on the social media giant's application programming interface, which is the digital bridge connecting their data to your website. But what happens when a multi-billion-dollar tech conglomerate in Silicon Valley suddenly decides to change the rules, update their code, or completely shut down their public data access without any warning? Your beautiful fast-loading grid of social proof instantly turns into a massive glaring error message right where your most critical sales copy should be. If you do not have a robust fail-safe mechanism engineered into your website architecture, a single unannounced update from an external platform can literally halt your entirely daily revenue stream, and fixing it requires understanding the crucial difference between dynamic fetching and static fallback protocols. To truly grasp the danger of relying solely on dynamic fetching, we must look at the fundamental architecture of the modern internet in 2026. Dynamic fetching means your website is actively asking a massive tech company for permission to display content every single time a customer loads your page. It is a live, ongoing conversation between two servers. Imagine if you owned a highly profitable brick-and-mortar retail store in Chicago, Illinois. You have beautiful display windows facing a busy street. Now imagine if you do not actually own the glass or the lighting in those windows. A third-party corporation owns them, and they reserve the right to instantly turn off the lights or paint the glass black at any given moment, without sending you a warning email or a text message. This is precisely the level of vulnerability you accept when your web developer hardcodes a live application programming interface feed into your primary sales funnel. You are surrendering absolute control of your digital real estate to external engineers who do not care about your conversion rates. Historical trends are littered with catastrophic examples of this exact vulnerability, destroying businesses overnight. Consider the case study of Robert, who managed a rapidly scaling financial technology software company based in Austin, Texas. Robert had built an incredibly compelling homepage that featured a live, dynamically fetched feed of customer testimonials pulled directly from a major microblogging platform. This social proof was the linchpin of his enterprise sales pitch. Potential chief financial officers would visit his site, see real-time praise from other financial institutions, and immediately book a highly lucrative software demonstration. However, in the spring of this year, that specific social media platform executed a massive, unannounced overhaul of their application programming interface infrastructure to combat data scraping. Within minutes, the digital bridge collapsed. Because Robert's development team had not implemented static fallback protocols, the live feed on his homepage did not just disappear. It triggered a cascading fatal error that completely broke the website's cascading style sheets. The entire homepage rendered as a jumbled, unreadable mess of broken code and oversized error messages. For 48 hours, every single high-ticket prospect who clicked on Robert's expensive search engine advertisements was greeted by a site that looked like it had been hacked. The potential outcome of this single point of failure was hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost enterprise pipeline revenue, all because he trusted a third-party server more than his own infrastructure. The architectural antidote to this vulnerability is the static fallback protocol, a mandatory requirement for any serious United States business operating online today. A static fallback is essentially a highly intelligent digital safety net. Instead of your website desperately begging the social media platform for data during a live customer visit, your server acts as an independent intermediary. Here is the step-by-step breakdown of how elite development agencies build this fail-safe mechanism. First, they configure a server-side script, commonly known as a cron job, to communicate with the social media platform during off-peak hours, completely isolated from your live customer traffic. This script politely requests the latest user-generated content, downloads the raw text, images, and video files, and then fundamentally severs the connection to the external network. Next, your server takes all of that freshly downloaded media and stores it locally within your own private, secure database. When a customer from New York City visits your website, your page loading sequence does not even attempt to speak to the social media network. Instead, it instantly pulls the assets directly from your own local database. This is what we refer to as serving static content. But the true genius of the static fallback protocol reveals itself during a crisis. Let us say the social network goes completely offline due to a massive server outage, or they suddenly revoke your access tokens. When your background script attempts its routine hourly download and fails to connect, it does not panic. It simply records the error in a private log and instructs your live website to continue displaying the last successfully downloaded batch of social proof. Your customer never sees an error message. Your page load speed remains lightning fast. Your sales funnel remains completely uninterrupted, You have successfully decoupled your revenue stream from the chaotic instability of the broader social internet. Let us examine how this specific strategy saved a critical sales event for Emily, the owner of a boutique luxury hotel chain headquartered in Charleston, South Carolina. Emily heavily leveraged visual social proof. Her booking pages featured a stunning, dynamically updating grid of guest photos curated from a major photo-sharing application. She understood that affluent travelers needed to see genuine, unfiltered experiences before committing to a $500 per night reservation. Approaching the highly competitive Black Friday travel booking season, Emily invested heavily in a localized static fallback infrastructure. On the exact morning her massive email marketing campaign launched, the primary photo-sharing network experienced a catastrophic global outage that lasted for 9 hours. Thousands of competitors in the hospitality sector, who relied on live widgets, saw their booking pages transform into blank screens with ugly broken image icons. Their conversion rates plummeted to zero. Emily's website, however, did not even flinch. Her server instantly recognized the external outage and gracefully fell back to the static cache of high-resolution guest photos it had downloaded the previous night. To the thousands of eager vacationers clicking her promotional emails, her website looked perfect, robust, and highly authoritative. They saw the beautiful social proof, they felt the necessary validation, and they confidently entered their credit card information. By proactively engineering a static fallback protocol, Emily transformed a global tech crisis into a massive competitive advantage, capturing critical market share while her rivals were desperately trying to call their web developers. Implementing these protocols requires your technical team to build redundant data pipelines and sophisticated error handling logic. It means treating user-generated content not as a fleeting live broadcast, but as valuable owned inventory that must be securely warehoused on your own digital property. You are effectively building an impenetrable fortress around your most persuasive marketing assets. You are ensuring that no matter what algorithm changes, what corporate acquisitions occur, or what servers crash in Silicon Valley, your United States business will continue to present a flawless, highly optimized, and deeply persuasive face to the market. But securing the visual presentation of your social proof is only half the battle. Once you have successfully engineered a lightning-fast, completely resilient method for displaying external validation on your website, you must confront an entirely different, far more insidious threat. The moment a customer interacts with that perfectly cached content, you are triggering a massive exchange of invisible data. In the current regulatory environment of 2026, the way your website handles this behavioral data is under unprecedented scrutiny. If you are unknowingly allowing third-party social networks to shadow your customers through hidden tracking pixels injected alongside your social proof, you are not just risking a poor user experience, you are stepping directly into the crosshairs of aggressive federal and state privacy enforcement agencies. The financial penalties for mishandling this silent data exchange can instantly bankrupt a growing business, and protecting yourself requires a masterclass in first-party data architecture and the complete elimination of rogue third-party cookies. To understand why rogue third-party cookies are the silent assassins of modern web commerce, we have to examine the massive shift in data privacy that has fundamentally altered the internet by the year 2026. For over a decade, the standard operating procedure for integrating social media was dangerously simple. You would take a small snippet of JavaScript provided by the social network, usually disguised as a harmless like button or a social sharing widget, and paste it directly into your website code. Web developers love this because it was effortless, but you must understand the mechanical reality of what that code actually does. It executes client-side, meaning it runs directly inside your customer's web browser. The moment a user lands on your page, that script wakes up and acts as a surveillance camera for the social media conglomerate. It drops a third-party tracking cookie into their browser, harvests their Internet Protocol address, scans their device fingerprint, and begins logging their exact behavior on your site. The social network is siphoning this highly lucrative behavioral data to feed their own advertising algorithms, and they are doing it using your website as the Trojan horse. Historical trends over the past 5 years have shown a relentless crackdown on this exact practice. With the total deprecation of third-party cookies in major web browsers and the aggressive enforcement of the California Privacy Rights Act, the legal landscape has completely shifted. The most critical factor you must realize is that the legal liability does not fall on the massive social network that provided the code. The liability falls entirely on you, the business owner who embedded it. Let us look at a highly relevant case study that illustrates the severity of this structural flaw. Consider Thomas, who operates a specialized telehealth and mental wellness booking platform based in Dallas, Texas. Thomas wanted to build community trust, so he embedded a simple, dynamically updating feed of his company's social media posts on his scheduling page. He used the standard free integration widget provided by the network. He did not realize that the widget contained a hidden tracking pixel that immediately began firing data back to the social media platform every time a patient visited the page. Because his website dealt with sensitive health-related scheduling, this invisible data transfer constituted a massive privacy violation. He was essentially broadcasting his visitors' intent to seek medical consultation directly to an external advertising network without explicit opt-in consent. When regulatory auditors conducted a routine sweep of tracking technologies in the healthcare sector, Thomas was flagged. The potential outcomes of this architectural oversight were devastating, involving crippling legal fees and a complete erosion of patient trust, all stemming from a seemingly innocent social media feed. This is the catastrophic danger of client-side integration. You are granting an external entity unrestricted access to your customer's browser environment, and in 2026, that is an unacceptable business risk. The definitive solution to this crisis, and the exact strategy deployed by top-tier digital infrastructure architects, is the complete transition to first-party data architecture, utilizing server-side tagging. This sounds highly technical, but the core concept is straightforward and absolutely vital for your survival. Instead of allowing the social network's code to run inside the customer's browser, you build a secure digital checkpoint. Imagine if you are hosting an exclusive corporate event in a secure building. You do not let external vendors walk through the front door and start interacting directly with your VIP guests. Instead, you have your own security team take the vendor supplies at the loading dock, inspect them, and deliver them to the guests yourself. Server-side tagging is your digital loading dock. Here is the step-by-step breakdown of how this architecture functions. When a customer visits your website, their browser communicates exclusively with your secure cloud server. If they interact with your beautifully integrated static fallback social proof, that interaction is recorded strictly by your server as first-party data. Your server then utilizes a sophisticated tool called a conversion application programming interface. Your server, not the customer's browser, opens a secure, encrypted tunnel to the social media network. Your server acts as a filter, intentionally stripping away sensitive personal information, masking the Internet Protocol address, and neutralizing the device fingerprint. It only transmits the highly specific, anonymized conversion events necessary to measure your advertising performance. The external social network never touches your customer's browser. They receive the data they need to optimize your campaigns, but you maintain absolute, ironclad control over the privacy and security of the user experience. Let us examine another case study to see the financial power of this compliance. Sarah runs a rapidly scaling, high-end baby furniture e-commerce operation in Phoenix, Arizona. Her entire marketing strategy relies on showing potential buyers user-generated videos of parents assembling her cribs. In the past, she relied on client-side tracking pixels to tell her social media advertising campaigns which videos were driving sales. As privacy updates blocked those pixels, her return on ad spend collapsed because the social networks could no longer see who was buying. By implementing server-side tagging and a conversion application programming interface, Sarah completely reversed the historical trend of declining ad performance. Her localized server reliably captured the conversion data when a parent made a purchase after watching a native, locally hosted social proof video. Her server then securely transmitted that success metric back to the advertising platform, completely bypassing the browser restrictions that were crippling her competitors. The potential outcome was a dramatically lowered cost per acquisition and a fully compliant, future-proof data architecture. You are no longer just a retailer or a service provider. You are the custodian of your customer's digital footprint. By eradicating rogue third-party cookies and taking absolute ownership of your data routing through server-side architecture, you build an impenetrable moat around your business. You satisfy the aggressive demands of modern privacy legislation, while simultaneously feeding your marketing algorithms the precise data they need to scale your revenue. You have successfully engineered a website that loads instantly, displays highly persuasive social validation, and protects consumer data with military precision. However, you have now created a deeply engaging, highly secure, closed-loop environment. Your customers are watching your integrated social content, they feel the community validation, and their trust in your brand is at an all-time high. But what happens when that inspiration translates into a desire to actively participate? What happens when they want to leave their own review, save a product to a customized wish list, or seamlessly transition from a passive reader to a registered buyer? If you force them to navigate away from your secure environment to log into a social network, or if you force them to fill out an exhaustive multi-step registration form native to your site, you will introduce massive friction and instantly kill the conversion momentum you work so hard to build. The modern consumer expects frictionless authentication, and the solution is implementing social login capabilities directly into your checkout flow. But if you implement this incorrectly, you will accidentally hand the master keys of your entire customer database directly back to those same tech giants you just walled off. Protecting your business requires mastering the precise architecture of a federated identity wall, which is exactly the critical vulnerability we will dismantle next. The concept of the federated identity wall is the most sophisticated psychological and technical tightrope a United States business owner must walk in 2026. On one side, you have the undeniable reality of friction. Historical trends in user experience design show that every additional field you add to a registration form, name, email, password confirmation, zip code, reduces your conversion rate by approximately 11%. In a world where consumers are used to one-tap biometric logins on their mobile devices, asking them to remember a unique password for your specific website is a massive barrier to entry. This is why social login buttons, which allow users to authenticate using their existing credentials from major platforms, are so ubiquitous. However, if you implement these buttons using the standard off-the-shelf code provided by those platforms, you are effectively installing a two-way mirror in your customer database. You are giving the social media giant a direct feed into who your customers are, when they log in, and what they are buying, while simultaneously making your business dependent on that platform's uptime and policy whims. Imagine a scenario involving Marcus, who owns a high-growth subscription service for organic gardening supplies based in Portland, Oregon. To maximize his sign-up rate, Marcus added a prominent Continue with Social button on his checkout page. For the first 6 months, the data looked phenomenal. His conversion rate jumped by 22%, because customers loved the convenience of skipping the registration form. However, Marcus had unknowingly built his house on someone else's land. In early 2026, the social media platform he used for authentication updated its developer terms of service, demanding a significant revenue share for any transaction processed through their identity link, or threatening to revoke access to the user data. Marcus was trapped. If he refused, thousands of his recurring subscribers would be locked out of their accounts, unable to manage their deliveries or update their credit cards. If he accepted, his profit margins would be decimated. This is the catastrophic risk of unmediated federated identity. The professional solution is the implementation of an identity abstraction layer, often referred to as a private identity provider or a federated identity wall. This architecture allows you to offer the convenience of social login while maintaining absolute ownership of the customer relationship. Instead of your website talking directly to the social network, you insert a secure middleman server that you control. When a customer clicks the social login button, the social network sends a secure token to your identity wall. Your server validates that token, extracts only the necessary data, usually just a verified email address and a unique identifier, and then generates its own independent session for the user. This creates a critical buffer. To the customer, the experience is seamless and fast. To the social network, the user is simply logging into a generic application. But to your business, the data is now yours. You have the email address stored in your own secure database, and you have issued your own first-party cookie. If that social network ever changes its rules, goes offline, or decides to charge exorbitant fees, your identity wall allows you to gracefully transition those users to a different login method or a native password reset, without losing their account history or subscription status. You have successfully utilized the social network as a mere keymaker, while you remain the sole owner of the lock in the house. Let us look at a case study involving a Midwestern furniture manufacturer named Linda, who operates out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Linda's business relied on a complex custom design tool, where users would spend hours configuring modular home office setups. In the past, she lost nearly half of her potential leads, because users didn't want to create an account just to save their progress. By implementing a federated identity wall, Linda allowed users to save their designs with a single tap using their preferred social account. Because she used an abstraction layer, She was able to capture their email addresses as first-party data immediately. Her system was configured to automatically send a follow-up email from her own server, not the social networks, 24 hours later if the design hadn't been purchased. This resulted in a potential outcome of a 35% increase in recovered abandoned carts. More importantly, when one of the major social platforms faced a massive security breach that forced all its users to reset their tokens, Linda's customers were unaffected. Her identity wall recognized the security event, kept her users' local sessions active, and prompted them to link a second login method for added security. She turned a global technical failure into a moment of proactive customer service and brand loyalty. Step by step, building this wall requires a move toward protocols like OpenID Connect and OAuth 2.0, managed through a dedicated identity management platform rather than a simple website plugin. You need to ensure that your database is the primary source of truth. Every time a user logs in via a social channel, your system should check for an existing record in your database. If it exists, you simply link the social ID to that record. This prevents the creation of duplicate accounts and ensures that your customer data remains clean and actionable. Furthermore, this architecture allows you to implement progressive profiling. Instead of asking for a customer's phone number, job title, and shipping address all at once, you can use the social login to get them through the door. Then, based on their behavior on your site, perhaps after they've spent 5 minutes using your interactive tools, you can trigger a small native pop-up asking for one more piece of information. Because they are already logged in and trust the environment, historical trends suggest they are significantly more likely to provide that data. You are building a detailed, high-value customer profile over time, rather than demanding it all up front and scaring them away. In the United States market of 2026, data is the new currency, and trust is the only way to earn it. By shielding your users from direct exposure to third-party tracking during the login process, you are positioning your brand as a privacy-first leader. You are providing the modern convenience of the social internet without the modern baggage of surveillance and dependency. This is how you scale a business that is resilient to the whims of Silicon Valley. You are using their tools to build your empire, but you are keeping the keys in your own pocket. But even with a perfect login system and lightning-fast social proof, there is one final massive hurdle that most American businesses completely ignore until it's too late. It's the invisible wall of the mobile browser. In 2026, over 80% of your social media-driven traffic is happening inside the in-app browsers of platforms like TikTok or Instagram. These browsers are not like Safari or Chrome. They are restricted, sandboxed environments designed to keep the user inside the social app at all costs. If your website's social integrations don't account for the unique technical limitations of these in-app browsers, your beautiful identity wall and your high-speed video feeds will simply break, leading to a white screen of death that costs you thousands in wasted ad spend. Understanding the specific, often undocumented quirks of the in-app browser environment is the difference between a high-converting masterpiece and a digital ghost town. We have to look at the exact code adjustments required to force these sandbox browsers to behave, or your entire mobile strategy will collapse the moment a user clicks your link. The in-app browser environment of 2026 is the single most restrictive and technically hostile landscape for a United States business to navigate. When a user in Los Angeles or Miami clicks a link in their social media feed, they are not being sent to the full-featured Chrome or Safari browser they use for their daily tasks. Instead, they are trapped within a web view, a stripped-down, sandbox browser window that lives entirely inside the social media application. These environments are engineered with a specific selfish goal: to ensure the user never actually leaves the platform's ecosystem. Because of this, these browsers frequently block certain types of JavaScript, restrict cookie access, and ignore standard web protocols that your developer likely takes for granted. If your website relies on a traditional pop-up for social login or uses complex redirects to verify a user's identity, the in-app browser will often simply kill the process. The user is left staring at a hanging loading screen or a frozen button, and your potential conversion evaporates before they even see your product. Historical trends indicate that over 70% of users who encounter a technical glitch within an in-app browser will immediately close the window and return to their feed. They do not blame the social media platform. They blame your business for having a broken website. To solve this, you must implement what is known as an in-app browser detection and adaptation script. This is a highly specialized piece of code that detects the specific user agent of the platform, whether it is TikTok, Instagram, or a professional networking app, and then dynamically serves a modified version of your website optimized for that specific sandbox. For example, instead of a pop-up window for social authentication, your site should perform a full-page redirect. In-app browsers almost always block secondary windows to prevent phishing, but they allow full-page navigation within their own frame. By forcing the redirect, you ensure the authentication process actually completes. Let us look at a case study involving Jennifer, who runs a high-end sustainable home goods company based in Nashville, Tennessee. Jennifer was spending thousands of dollars monthly on social media video ads. Her analytics showed thousands of clicks, but her mobile conversion rate was nearly zero. When she performed a forensic audit, she discovered that her high-speed video proof grid, the very thing she built to establish trust, wasn't loading at all inside the TikTok in-app browser. The browser's aggressive battery saving and data saving protocols were pausing her asynchronous scripts before they could fetch the video assets. Jennifer's developer implemented a mobile-first fallback that detected the sandboxed environment and replaced the heavy video grid with high-resolution, static WebP images that were preloaded onto the primary server. The result was a dramatic shift in historical trends for her business, leading to a potential outcome of a 400% increase in mobile sales within the first 30 days. She stopped fighting the sandbox and started working within its limitations. Another critical vulnerability in the in-app environment involves the persistent login state. Imagine a user named Alex in Seattle, Washington. Alex sees your ad, clicks through, logs in using your secure federated identity wall, and adds 3 items to his cart. Then he gets a notification from a friend, swipes away from the in-app browser to reply, and the social app automatically refreshes or closes the browser window to save memory. When Alex clicks your ad again 5 minutes later to finish his purchase, the in-app browser has cleared the session. He is forced to log in again. In the fast-moving economy of 2026, Alex will not log in twice. He will move on. To combat this, you must utilize local storage and persistent server-side card association linked to the user's social ID. Your website must be able to recognize Alex the moment he returns, even if the browser session was terminated, by using deep linking protocols that pass a secure, temporary identifier back and forth between the app and the web view. This level of technical integration requires a shift from being a passive website owner to an active digital architect. You need to verify that your site uses a service worker, a script that runs in the background of the browser, which can cache critical checkout elements and maintain state, even when the connection is spotty or the browser is being aggressive about memory management. Furthermore, you must ensure that your checkout buttons are using native browser payment protocols like Apple Pay or Google Pay. In 2026, asking a user to manually type their credit card number into a small keyboard inside a sandbox social media browser is a recipe for failure. By integrating one-tap payments that are recognized by the underlying operating system, you bypass the friction of the in-app keyboard and the security fears of the user. Historical data suggests that businesses using native payment integration within social-driven traffic see a significantly higher completion rate than those using standard forms. Consider the case of a boutique fitness apparel brand in Boulder, Colorado. They noticed that their highest bounce rate occurred at the exact moment the user was asked for a shipping address. By implementing a deep integrated social login that pulled the user's verified address directly from their social profile and passing it to a one-tap payment provider, they eliminated 4 steps of the checkout process. This streamlined architecture respects the user's time and the technical limitations of the mobile environment. You are essentially building a specialized fast lane for the majority of your traffic. However, even with a perfectly optimized mobile experience and an airtight identity wall, you are still operating within the rules set by the social media giants. You are paying them for every click, and they are controlling the flow of information. To truly scale a United States business in 2026, you must find a way to take the energy of that social interaction and turn it into a self-sustaining loop that doesn't require constant ad spend. This is achieved through the integration of social sharing loops and referral mechanics directly into the post-purchase experience. But simply adding a share on Facebook button at the end of a transaction is a wasted effort. The modern consumer requires a value exchange that feels authentic and integrated, not transactional and desperate. If you can master the art of incentivized social proof, where your customers become your primary content creators and your most effective sales force, you can decouple your growth from the rising costs of social media advertising. But there is a very fine line between a successful referral program and a spammy tactic that gets your domain blacklisted or your social accounts shadow banned. Mastering the technical and psychological nuances of the post-purchase social loop is the final piece of the integration puzzle. We need to look at the exact data tracking structures and automated reward systems that turn a one-time buyer into a lifetime brand advocate, and how a simple mistake in your reward logic can lead to a massive legal headache under United States consumer protection laws. To avoid these legal headaches and technical failures, we must examine the specific mechanics of the post-purchase social loop through the lens of modern United States consumer protection laws and Federal Trade Commission guidelines in 2026. The most common mistake American business owners make is offering a direct financial kickback for a positive review or a social media share without a clear, conspicuous disclosure. In the eyes of the law, an incentivized post that is not clearly labeled as such is considered deceptive advertising. If your website automatically triggers a social sharing prompt that pre-populates a glowing review in exchange for a discount code, you are effectively creating a liability chain. If a consumer in California or New York acts on that incentivized post and feels misled, your business is the primary target for regulatory scrutiny. The historical trends of the mid-2020s have shown a massive increase in class action lawsuits targeting small to mid-sized e-commerce brands for exactly these types of undisclosed influencer-style arrangements with everyday customers. The architectural solution is to build a transparent, value-based referral engine that is integrated directly into your checkout and user account systems. Instead of a generic share button, imagine a scenario involving a customer named Brian in Charlotte, North Carolina. Brian has just purchased a high-end ergonomic office chair from your website. Instead of a pop-up that says share for $5 off, your system presents a high-resolution, branded graphic of his specific chair configuration with a unique, trackable QR code or short link. The prompt explains that if Brian shares his setup on his preferred network, any of his colleagues who use his link will receive a professional consultation on office ergonomics, and Brian will receive a credit toward a future maintenance kit. This is a value exchange rather than a bribe. The language is educational and service-oriented, which aligns with historical trends of successful long-term brand building in the United States market. From a technical standpoint, this requires a robust back-end system that can generate and track unique referral identifiers in real time. You cannot rely on simple browser cookies for this, as we have already established that the in-app browser environment of 2026 is hostile to third-party tracking. Instead, your server must generate a unique hash for every customer at the moment of purchase. This hash is appended to the social sharing URL. When a new visitor clicks that link, your server immediately identifies the source of the traffic and associates that visitor's session with Brian's account in your database. This is a first-party data transaction. It is secure, it is accurate, and it is completely independent of the social media platform's tracking pixels. Let us look at a case study involving a specialty outdoor gear retailer based in Salt Lake City, Utah. They implemented a tiered social referral loop. When a customer shared a photo of their new camping tent on social media using the retailer's integrated web tool, the tool automatically added a transparent watermark that met all federal disclosure requirements for an incentivized post. If that post generated 10 clicks, the original customer was automatically upgraded to a premium membership level. This gamification created a self-sustaining cycle of high-quality, authentic social proof. Because the retailer owned the data and the tracking mechanism, they were able to see that their social referral traffic had a conversion rate 3 times higher than their paid social advertisements. The potential outcome was a significant reduction in their overall marketing budget, while simultaneously increasing their customer lifetime value. However, building this loop introduces a massive data management challenge. You are now managing a complex web of customer relationships, referral credits, and social interactions. If your website's database is not properly indexed and optimized for these types of relational queries, your site speed will begin to degrade as your referral program grows. This is why many successful United States businesses in 2026 are moving toward a microservices architecture. Instead of your main e-commerce engine trying to calculate referral rewards in real time, that task is handed off to a specialized secondary server. This ensures that your primary sales funnel remains lightning fast and responsive, regardless of how many thousands of people are sharing your content on social media at any given second. Step by step, the implementation of a professional social loop begins with the identification of the precise moment of maximum customer delight. Historical data suggests this is usually not immediately after the payment is processed, but rather about 48 hours after the product has been delivered or the service has been completed. By integrating your website with a real-time shipping carrier API, Your site can automatically trigger a personalized email or text message containing the social sharing assets at the exact moment the customer is most likely to be excited about their purchase. This message should lead back to a dedicated, high-speed landing page on your website where the customer can easily customize their social post with pre-approved brand assets. This keeps the user within your ecosystem and ensures that the resulting social proof is visually consistent with your brand identity. Consider the case of a high-growth pet insurance provider in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They realized that their customers were most likely to share stories about their pets when they received a reimbursement check for a veterinary visit. The company built a custom integration that allowed customers to click a button in their digital portal that instantly generated a cute, shareable graphic celebrating their pet's recovery. This graphic included a link to a curated educational resource on the company's website about pet health. By focusing on the emotional and educational value of the interaction, the company saw a massive surge in organic, high-trust traffic. They weren't just asking for a share. They were providing a tool for the customer to tell a meaningful story. This strategy follows the historical trend of narrative-driven marketing, which has consistently outperformed direct sales tactics in the American digital landscape. You must also consider the mobile-first nature of these interactions. In 2026, a social share that doesn't look perfect on a mobile screen is a failure. Your integrated sharing tools must utilize the WebShare API, a modern browser feature that allows your website to trigger the native sharing menu of a user's smartphone. This allows the user to send your content directly to their contacts via encrypted messaging apps or post to their social feeds without ever leaving your site. This is the pinnacle of frictionless integration. It removes the need for clunky, outdated social icons and replaces them with the native, intuitive experience that users already know and trust. But as you successfully turn your website into a hub for social interaction and community-driven growth, you are inadvertently painting a massive target on your back. A website that is heavily integrated with social media, handling high volumes of referral data and user-generated content, is a goldmine for malicious actors. In 2026, the rise of automated bot networks and sophisticated cross-site scripting attacks means that every one of your social integration points is a potential doorway for a security breach. If a hacker manages to inject malicious code into your social proof grid or hijack your referral tracking system, they can steal your customer data, redirect your revenue, and destroy your brand's reputation in a matter of minutes. Protecting your United States business requires a masterclass in modern web security and the implementation of an ironclad content security policy. We must look at the specific, high-level security protocols that separate the professional digital fortresses from the vulnerable targets, and why a single mistake in your server's header configuration can leave your entire customer base exposed to the most aggressive cyber threats of the year. To understand the sheer scale of this security threat in 2026, you have to realize that every social media widget, every embedded post, and every third-party login button is essentially an invitation for external code to run on your private property. In the world of cybersecurity, this is known as increasing your attack surface. The most prevalent threat facing United States businesses today is a cross-site scripting attack, or XSS. Imagine if you owned a high-end jewelry store in Manhattan. You decide to put a digital guestbook by the front door where customers can leave a nice note. But a sophisticated thief walks in and instead of writing a compliment, they write a set of instructions that tells your security cameras to turn off and your display cases to unlock at midnight. This is exactly what happens when a malicious actor injects a script into your website through a vulnerable social media feed, or a comment section that is not properly sanitized. Historical trends show that as social integration becomes more complex, the sophistication of these scripts grows. In 2026, we are seeing the rise of polymorphic scripts that can bypass traditional firewalls by mimicking the behavioral patterns of legitimate social media data packets. If your website is dynamically fetching user-generated content, and you have not implemented a strict content security policy, or CSP, you are essentially leaving your back door unlocked. A CSP is a set of instructions sent by your server to the customer's browser. It acts as a digital bouncer, telling the browser exactly which sources are trusted. If a hacker tries to inject a script that attempts to send your customer's credit card data to a rogue server in a foreign country, the CSP will see that the destination is not on the pre-approved list and will instantly kill the connection. Let us look at a chilling case study involving a mid-sized insurance brokerage based in Hartford, Connecticut. The firm had a highly interactive website that featured a live feed of client testimonials pulled from various professional social networks. They failed to implement a robust content security policy because their web developer thought the standard social media plugins were inherently secure. In early 2026, a bad actor exploited a vulnerability in the third-party plugin and injected a silent keylogger script. This script did not break the website or change the layout. It sat invisibly in the background, recording every single keystroke made by potential clients as they filled out sensitive insurance applications. The potential outcomes were catastrophic. Thousands of social security numbers and private medical histories were compromised. The brokerage faced massive fines under the Connecticut Data Privacy Act and a total loss of corporate reputation. This was not a failure of the social media platform. It was a failure of the business's own server headers. Step by step, the implementation of a professional-grade content security policy begins with a thorough audit of every single external resource your website calls upon. You must create a whitelist of trusted domains. For example, if you use a specific social network for login, that domain must be explicitly permitted to execute scripts. If you use a specific content delivery network for your high-speed video proof, that domain must be permitted to load media. Every other source must be blocked by default. Furthermore, you must disable the execution of inline scripts and the use of the eval function in your code, as these are the primary pathways used by XSS attacks. Another layer of this digital fortress is the implementation of sub-resource integrity, or SRI. This is a security feature that allows browsers to verify that the files they fetch from a third-party server have not been tampered with. Imagine if you ordered a specific brand of security lock for your warehouse. When the box arrives, you check the serial number against the manufacturer's record to make sure it hasn't been swapped for a cheap imitation. SRI does this for your code. You provide a cryptographic hash of the legitimate social media script. When the browser downloads that script from the social network server, it calculates its own hash. If the two hashes do not match perfectly, it means the code has been modified by a third party, and the browser will refuse to run it. This protects your business even if the social media giant itself or its content delivery network is compromised. Let us examine the case of a high-growth fintech startup in San Francisco, California. Because they handled sensitive financial data, they were a prime target for cyber attacks. They implemented a zero-trust architecture for their social media integrations. Every single piece of user-generated content was first routed through a headless browser on an isolated sandbox server. This server would render the content, strip out any potential script tags or malicious hidden frames, and then repackage the clean data for the live website. While this added a few milliseconds of latency, the historical trend of their security performance was flawless. They were able to display dynamic social proof to their investors and customers while maintaining a security posture that exceeded federal requirements for financial institutions. You must also consider the threat of session hijacking, especially within the context of the social login systems we discussed earlier. In 2026, hackers often use man-in-the-middle attacks to intercept the secure tokens passed between the social network and your website. If they capture a valid session token, they can impersonate your customer and gain access to their private account data. To prevent this, your website must strictly enforce HTTP Strict Transport Security, or HSTS. This tells the browser that it must only communicate with your site using an encrypted connection. Additionally, you should implement secure, same-site, and HTTP-only flags on all your cookies. The HTTP-only flag is particularly critical. It prevents any JavaScript, even a legitimate script, from accessing the cookie data. This means that even if a hacker successfully executes an XSS attack on your site, they cannot steal the session cookies required to hijack your customers' accounts. This level of security is not just about protecting data. It is about protecting the financial viability of your United States business. The cost of a data breach in 2026 includes not only the direct legal penalties and remediation costs, but also a massive increase in insurance premiums and the permanent loss of customer trust. By proactively configuring your server headers and implementing a multi-layered security protocol for your social integrations, you are demonstrating to your customers and your underwriters that you take their safety seriously. You are moving from a reactive state of hoping for the best to a proactive state of engineered resilience. However, even with an impenetrable digital fortress and a perfectly optimized user experience, there is one final overarching challenge that determines the ultimate success of your integration strategy. You have built the perfect machine, but how do you measure its actual performance without falling into the trap of vanity metrics? Most American businesses are still measuring their success by likes, follows, and superficial engagement rates that have no direct correlation to their bottom line. To truly master the integration of social media into your business website, you must move toward a sophisticated model of multi-touch attribution and real-time conversion value tracking. You need to know exactly which specific social interaction on your website led to which specific dollar of revenue. If you cannot draw a straight line from your social proof grid to your bank account, you are just guessing. The final step of this masterclass is the complete overhaul of your analytics framework, shifting from vague engagement data to precise, actionable financial intelligence. We need to look at the exact custom event configurations and attribution models required to see the true return on your digital investment, and why the standard reports in your analytics dashboard are likely lying to you about your business's health. To understand why your standard analytics dashboards are likely misleading you in 2026, we have to look at the fundamental flaw of last-click attribution. Most United States business owners log into their analytics and look for a direct line. A user clicks a social media ad, lands on the website, and buys a product. If that sequence does not happen in a single linear session, the dashboard often attributes zero value to the social media component. This is a catastrophic misunderstanding of the modern American consumer journey. In reality, a customer might see your brand on a short-form video platform while commuting in Chicago, visit your website later that evening on a laptop to read your integrated social proof, and then finally complete the purchase 3 days later via a direct search on their tablet. In a last-click world, the social media integration that provided the critical trust and validation gets absolutely no credit. You might be tempted to turn off a high-performing social engine simply because your data is too shallow to see its impact. The solution used by elite digital marketers is the implementation of custom event tracking, combined with data-driven multi-touch attribution. This requires moving beyond simple page views and into the realm of behavioral triggers. Every single time a user interacts with your social media integration points, your website must fire a high-fidelity custom event to your first-party data server. If a user hovers over a customer video for more than 5 seconds, that is an event. If they click to expand a social testimonial, that is an event. If they use a social login to save a shopping cart, that is a high-intent event. By capturing these micro-interactions, you begin to build a heat map of how social proof actually moves the needle for your specific audience. Let us look at a case study involving a premium kitchenware brand based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The owner, Mark, was frustrated because his expensive user-generated content grid appeared to be doing nothing. His standard reports showed that almost no one clicked from the grid directly to a product page. However, when Mark implemented a linear attribution model that tracked every touchpoint over a 30-day window, a different story emerged. Historical trends in his specific data revealed that visitors who engaged with the social media grid were 400% more likely to return to the site and complete a purchase within 1 week, compared to those who ignored the grid. The social proof wasn't a direct sales driver. It was a powerful retention and trust-building engine. By shifting his perspective from immediate conversion to assisted conversion value, Mark was able to justify doubling his investment in high-quality social integration, leading to a potential outcome of his highest revenue year on record. Step by step, the transition to this level of financial intelligence requires a deep integration between your website's event layer and your back-end customer relationship management system. You need to utilize a server-side tagging environment, as we discussed in previous sections, to ensure that these events are not being blocked by privacy-focused browsers. Once the data reaches your server, you should assign a fractional value to every interaction. For example, if a total sale is worth $100, you might attribute $20 of that value to the initial social discovery, $30 to the social proof interaction on your website, and $50 to the final search intent. This creates a realistic picture of your marketing ecosystem. Imagine a scenario involving a customer named Taylor in Austin, Texas. Taylor is looking for a high-end air purification system. Taylor visits your site 3 times. On the first visit, Taylor spends 4 minutes watching integrated social media videos of other families using the product. On the second visit, Taylor uses a social login to download a technical specification sheet. On the third visit, Taylor clicks an email link and buys the system. If you are only looking at your email reports, you think the email did all the work. In reality, the social media integration on your website did the heavy lifting of establishing the authority and trust required for a high-ticket purchase. Without that integrated proof, the email would have been ignored. To capture this accurately, your analytics must be configured to recognize Taylor across all 3 devices and associate every single social touchpoint with the final transaction identifier. Furthermore, you must account for the qualitative impact of social integration on your search engine optimization. In 2026, search algorithms in the United States are increasingly prioritizing user experience metrics like dwell time and engagement depth. When your social media integrations successfully keep a user on your page longer, you are sending a massive signal to search engines that your content is valuable and relevant. This creates a virtuous cycle. Better social integration leads to longer dwell times, which leads to higher organic rankings, which leads to more traffic, which leads to more social proof. You must track your average session duration specifically for pages with and without social elements to quantify this hidden search engine optimization value. Consider another case study of a specialized legal consulting firm in Washington, D.C. They integrated a dynamic feed of industry-specific discussions from a professional networking site directly into their blog posts. By analyzing their data through the lens of engagement-weighted attribution, they found that blog posts featuring the social feed had a 30% higher share rate and a significantly lower bounce rate than plain text posts. This led to a historical trend of their organic search traffic growing by 50% over 6 months. The firm wasn't just integrating social media for the sake of looking modern. They were using it as a structural tool to boost their site's authority in the eyes of both humans and algorithms. This final pillar of the masterclass is about closing the gap between marketing and finance. When you can present a report that shows exactly how many thousands of dollars in assisted revenue were generated by your social media integration, you are no longer guessing at your budget. You are making data-backed decisions that insulate your business from market volatility. You are treating your website not as a static digital business card, but as a living, breathing, and highly measurable sales machine that leverages the full power of the social internet without ever losing control of the user. We have covered the architectural foundation, the speed requirements, the legal compliance, the mobile-first sandboxing, the security protocols, and finally the financial attribution. You now possess the complete blueprint for integrating social media into your United States business website in a way that maximizes retention and minimizes risk. You have moved from the outdated model of sending your traffic away to the modern model of bringing the entire social ecosystem into your own walled garden. This is the difference between a business that survives on crumbs from the social media giants and a business that thrives by owning its own digital destiny. While we have mastered the integration of the social media elements you can see and control, there is a burgeoning world of invisible social signals that are beginning to dictate the success of United States businesses in ways we never thought possible. These are the decentralized, off-site social data points that search engines and AI agents are now using to rank your business before a user even visits your website. If you think your work is done once the code is on your page, you are missing the next massive shift in the digital landscape. The integration of social media is evolving into the integration of social identity across the entire web. And if your business isn't prepared for the rise of the social semantic web, your perfectly integrated website might soon find itself invisible to the next generation of AI-driven consumers. The next phase of this journey isn't just about your website. It is about how your website speaks to the artificial intelligence models that are currently deciding your brand's future. Would you like me to develop the next deep dive series on optimizing your business for the AI search and semantic web era of 2027?